Welcome to the Golden State Media Concepts College Football Podcast, your ticket to all things college football. Are you looking to get your college football fix? Looking to get the latest news on your favorite school's team? Join us as we talk college football from the national championship to college rivalries to bowl games to the Heisman Trophy to which conference is the best. We've got you covered for the Big Ten, SEC, Big 12, Pac-12, ACC, and everything in between.
What is up? Welcome into the GSMC Football Podcast. I am your host, Tom Dougherty, which means this is the College Football Edition. Today, on a Monday, this is the College Football Edition, as we will be talking about your favorite college football teams, scores, or stories. No scores yet, as we're pretty much a long way off from the season, but doesn't mean we can't talk about some college football. We'll be getting into some draft recap as well. We'll look at some winners and losers, some guys from big schools that may have dropped, may have been value picks. I know we had 4 picks from Alabama go in the first round. We're also going to talk about Scott Frost and his starts, his tenure at Nebraska, and how he's kind of changing the culture there, up there in Lincoln. So we'll be going over that probably in the second or third segment, as we're going to be talking about the draft a little bit here. To start off our show, all my running backs finally went. I know we had Sony Michel. I mean, we had Rashad Penny went in the first round, as well as obviously Saquon. But yeah, Saquon. But you know, Nick Chubb was the first pick of the second round. You gotta like that. I mean, I don't know if you're Nick Chubb if you like going to the Browns. I remember if you look at the difference between. I mean, obviously you got Baker. If you go look at the press conference for the Browns, their first 2 picks, their first round picks, they got 2 of them. They had obviously Baker number 1 and then Denzel Ward number 2. Denzel Ward's face still tell you all of it. You had Baker's face like, yeah, number 1 pick. I don't really care where I go. I'm number 1 pick. Blah blah blah. It probably means a little bit more to him than actually having to deal with the Browns and being their savior. But look at Denzel Ward. He's like, dude, I'm actually pretty good. I'm probably going to be here for a while. They're going to probably give me some big-ass contract. Or he's like, dude, I'm playing my rookie contract here, and I'm getting the hell out of here. Because, I mean, the Browns are – what do they do on Thursday? They just went away from everything they're supposed to do. Oh, we want Saquon. Oh, we want Saquon and Bradley Chubb. Oh, we want a quarterback. Oh, we're going to pick 2 quarterbacks in the first round. Oh, we want Josh Allen. Oh, we want Sam Darnold. I mean, it ended up coming out that John Dorsey thought that Sam Darnold wasn't going to be the guy. Wasn't going to be up to actually being the savior for the team. Well, he's going to go play in New York now for the Jets and be in that New York media, which he's perfect for. The stoic, non-responsive guy where he's going to talk to the media, but not really talk to the media. He's going to give answers, but kind of not really give any information off those answers. I mean, kind of like the Derek. I mean, look at the people who have played in New York and been successful. I mean, Derek Jeter. I mean, Aaron Judge, Mark Messier, Mariano Rivera. I mean, all these guys that just don't really have much. They're kind of Teflon. Nothing really sticks to them. I mean, I can continue, but he's going to fit right in New York. Perfect media face for the Jets, and be guys like no problems. I mean, Eli Manning, same thing. Look what Eli's done for the Giants. I thought he would be the heir apparent to Eli Manning, but the Giants have said nope, Saquon's our guy, which is fine. He's going to come into day one. They're going to win now. They want to win now. I think they're in a little bit more of a rebuilding mode than they think, but if you can get Eli, you get a little spark of Eli Manning getting going here with Saquon, take a little pressure off of him. Could turn into something nice, but I mean, the NFC East is going to be mighty tough this year as you have obviously the defending Super Bowl champion Eagles getting better. They traded their pick in the first round. They traded their pick in the first round actually to Baltimore, and Baltimore snagged Lamar Jackson with the last pick of the first round. So Lamar can say he's a first-round pick for the rest of his career. Nicely done. Heisman Trophy winner. First-round pick. I think the first time we've had the two Heisman Trophy winners, definitely the first time I think two Heisman Trophy winners have bookended a round, play the first round. I don't know if we've even had two Heisman Trophy winners go in the same round at all. So it's interesting. I'm trying to think here. With Johnny Manziel, but he left. Yeah, I mean, it obviously would take a freshman to win the Heisman like Lamar did. I could think about it, do some research during the break. I'll come back to you with that one. But so Thursday didn't go as planned necessarily. I thought there'd be way more trades. We talked about that a bit on Friday, on the Friday show, kind of just ranting and raving with the fact that, Josh Rosen was all pissed that he dropped to the Cardinals when he actually got to go to a good franchise. You want to get picked first overall and go to the Browns, Josh? Really? No. Why don't you just wait your turn? You got picked 10th, big whoop, and now you're going to an actual franchise that is well run and has a good running back and a good head coach, smart head coach. Not that Hugh Jackson, but it's still with the Browns. Cardinals were 8-8 last year, and they lost their running back and played with a backup quarterback half a season. I mean, I don't know why they decided to get rid of Honey Badger, but they probably just want to pay him. Now they're maybe having some injury problems. You still got Patrick Peterson. You still got Chandler Jones in that line. I mean, you got a good defense. And you still got Larry Fitzgerald to throw to. If you're Josh Rosen, that's your security blanket. You got a good running back. I mean, there's nothing really to worry about there. I mean, you got probably some other good. I mean, the Cardinals always seem to find some good little receivers too. So I would, if you're Josh Rosen and your 9 mistakes, Josh Rosen and the 9 mistakes, he's like, oh no, just go play some football. You'll be fine. I'm most excited, obviously, to see Sam Darnold in New York for the Jets, but that's going to be interesting. I mean, to see if they're going to have him start right away, or have him play behind Teddy Bridgewater for a little bit, and then be that. I mean, that's the problem with these quarterbacks coming in. Like, same thing with Baker Mayfield. You're going to have Tyrod Taylor, who's just, I mean, it's going to be tough. You're going to redshirt Baker Mayfield the whole time. I mean, Josh Rosen is going to be behind Sam Bradford, and he actually can fight and maybe beat him out for the starting position over the offseason and through training camp and be the starter just by winning that job. Versus, I think the Jets and the Browns situation, you're like, okay, no, we want to hold him off for a little bit. We're going to put him behind, but then you're like, oh, Tyrod has a bad game. Oh, Teddy Bridgewater has a bad game. Boom. There's your rookie. Let's put the rookie in. I mean, I don't know. We haven't really had. We're actually going to have the first time a guy has had a real redshirt season, and that was Patrick Mahomes, because the Chiefs had a really good season last year, start off the year, and they didn't want to. I mean, obviously, there's no reason to stop something until it stops itself, like it did against the Titans in the playoffs. But Alex Smith was doing fine. No reason to take him out. You traded him in the offseason. You get something back for him. I think they got a good little cornerback too in that trade. So Patrick Mahomes will be just fine with that, with playing that whole year as a backup, and we'll see who gets that opportunity to do that. Maybe as a growth year. I think Josh Allen might, but also, I mean, who's the Bills? Who do the Bills have right now? They're willing to say, okay, guys, we're going to take a season off. We're going to let who'd they even sign? It was the quarterback from who used to go to Alabama. I'll think of his name in just a second. I don't know why I'm not thinking of his name. He was AJ McCarron. There it is. They signed McCarron for whatever, and he's going to let him play, and then Josh Allen will be ready. Same difference. I think the only team that really got it right is going to have that situation right where, I mean, a guy can really fight for a job and probably win it is in Arizona. And maybe Sam Darnold comes out and just lights everything up on fire during the offseason and can do it and get that job won himself. But I think they're still going to handle him with kid gloves, just like the Bills and the Browns will with their picks. Browns shocked everybody in that 4th pick getting Denzel Ward. But no, in the second round, my running backs went. They went quickly. Nick Chubb went first pick overall. and we were first pick overall in that second round. Not overall, but first pick overall in that second round. I said he's gonna be the guy. Obviously, Sony Michel went in the first round to the Patriots. They traded back into the first. Well, they had two picks in the first round. They got that 23rd pick from the Bills, where they got the offensive tackle from Georgia. Wynn is going to be the guard, as they did trade for. But yeah, they got 31st pick where they got Sony Michel. Then the first pick of the second round, the second pick of the second Cleveland pick of the second round was the 35th pick, Nick Chubb. They got Austin Corbett from Nevada. The first pick of the second round was the guard. Yeah. Then Hernandez. Then Nick Chubb went 35th overall, second pick of the second round for the Browns, third pick overall in the second round. But yeah, then everybody kind of went. Ronald Jones went to the Buccaneers, 38th overall from USC. The guy we've been talking about for a long time. Then Kerryon Johnson went 43rd to the Lions. We talked about him for a long time. Niners did trade up and actually get the receiver out of Washington. They got Dante Pettis from Washington. Not a bad pick there for the Niners as they get that speed receiver. I thought they might go for Christian Kirk up there, as Kirk actually did last only a couple more picks as the Cardinals grabbed him from the receiver from Texas A&M. Snapped a streak of A&M first rounders. That had been going on for a little bit actually. Last year, obviously, they had Myles Garrett go in that first round. We had, like I talked about, two brothers go in that first round. That was pretty cool. The Edmonds brothers went. Those guys both went to Virginia Tech, and they both go in the first round. Obviously, then we had in the fifth round, to talk about brothers, I got to talk about this. Might be a whole little segment I have to talk about here for a few minutes here. We had in the fifth round to go to the Seattle Seahawks to join his brother Shaquem Griffin went to the Seahawks. Isn't that cool? I mean, they had a whole talk. They were talking about it. They had a whole video of Pete Carroll and John Schneider talking to Shaquem as they picked him in the fifth round. I'm trying to find him where he went in that fifth round. I think he went early in the fifth round, actually. Yeah, Shaquem Griffin, pick 141 in the fifth round. It was actually the fourth pick in the fifth round, linebacker out of UCF, to join his brother Shaquille in Seattle. That's pretty cool. So let me play together. The twin brothers. Remember, Shaquem Griffin is that young linebacker who ran that really fast 40-yard dash, and he's been without his, I think it's his left hand for most of his life. Actually, I think he lost it at 4 years old. So yeah, I mean, Shaquem Griffin, that's a great story there. He's gonna be playing in the NFL coming up. I mean, I thought maybe he would go third round, but no, drafted to the fifth round, and he got snapped up by Seattle right in front of the Niners, who picked DJ Reed, the cornerback from Kansas State. So those two NFC West division. I'm talking about a baseball show a second ago. But NFC West division foes going back to back, and that's maybe the Niners wanted that linebacker. The Niners got a linebacker third round out of BYU, Fred Warner out of BYU. But yeah, no, we had a bunch of different schools. I mean, lots of different schools represented in this draft. A lot of guys from kind of all over the place. As we're going to talk about by selection, the ACC, the ACC led all schools, SEC led all conferences with 53 picks from the SEC, as they had 10 first rounders, 10 second rounders, and then kind of six each in the third and fourth round, 4 in the fifth, 8 in the sixth, and 9 in the seventh. So, and then in second was the ACC with 45 picks, as they kind of had theirs scattered out throughout the draft as well. Let's see, the Pac-12 had 30 picks, and the Big Ten had 33 picks. And Big 12 came up, and they pulling up the rear when it comes to the Power 5 conference. Only 20 picks on it out of here in the Big 12. Also, the only first round pick out of the Big 12 was Baker Mayfield out of Oklahoma. And that says something. Big 12 can get kind of watered down there. It's like, we're talking about Baker and the fact that is he that first round pick? Does he deserve being number one overall? I mean, he's been playing against some pretty cupcake teams his whole career, especially in Oklahoma. And you got a guy, you play teams like Baylor and Kansas State, and I mean Texas Tech, Oklahoma State, I mean, there's no real defenses. These are all shootout schools where they're going to try and outscore you as much as they can. All right, we're going to talk more draft, more conference by conference drafting as we go along here, and we'll come back into that in the second segment, as we'll be right back after these messages.
Are you looking for help for your fantasy football team? Check out the GSMC Fantasy Football Podcast. Get today's best advice on who to start, who to sit, even who you should draft. From sleeper picks to red-hot lineups, they got it all covered for you. That's gsmcpodcast.com/fantasy-football-podcast. We'll cover traditional leagues, dynasty, PPR, even IDP leagues. When you need fantasy help, there's just one show to hit up. Don't forget to like them on Facebook and follow them on Twitter. Visit gsmcpodcast.com for more info.
All right, welcome back. GSMC Football Podcast, the college football edition. We'll get to some college football news in the second half of the show, but we're still on the draft. I mean, the draft is still going to, I'm milking it. I'm milking as much of the draft as I possibly can out because it's just really fun to talk about, obviously. We can even go through all the player selections. I'll read you one by, no, I'm kidding. I'm not going to read you one by one. That'd be crazy. But yeah, my running backs, told you, deep running back draft. They all went, and I think they all went within the first couple rounds. Mason Rudolph did last till the third round, which is about where he was supposed to go. He went to the Pittsburgh Steelers. Is he going to be the heir apparent to Ben Roethlisberger? I thought the Steelers might want to get a guy like what was I going to say? Lamar Jackson, duh. But no, I think they wanted somebody bigger quarterbacks, fits their system the kind of the same way Big Ben did. They got Mason Rudolph from Oklahoma State in the trade. Actually, they traded up to get him. Let's see. Seattle traded its third pick. So actually, Seattle traded up to get to the 76th position, and Pittsburgh went back to 79. Or no, Pittsburgh went up to 76 from 79 and gave a 7th round pick as well. So they did trade up 3 spots to get Mason Rudolph. Maybe they thought maybe Cincinnati because Cincinnati had the 77th and 78th pick. So they traded up in front of Cincinnati to get Mason Rudolph, maybe thinking that the Bengals were going to go after him as well. I know earlier in that round we had Royce Freeman from Oregon, another running back, he went to the Broncos. They needed a guy like that, more of a speed running back, as they have the bruiser in. The bruiser in it, C.J. Anderson, had a nice career there in Denver. Booker has yet to kind of pop, but we're seeing how that goes on. I know Kerryon Johnson went to the Lions, like I said. Ronald Jones, Tampa Bay. Nick Chubb went to Cleveland. I know we had the two. My favorite one was Sonny Michel, and he's in New England now with the Patriots. He went 31st overall. Interesting pick. Rashad Penny was actually the second running back pick. I know Darius Geis was dropped. He had some stuff going around him, and he dropped all the way, I think, into the third round, possibly. I think, actually. Yeah, he dropped deep in that third round. I think he was finally picked up. Where is Darius Geis? Here. I know he got picked up. I think the Steelers may have grabbed him, as he had some issues going around surrounding him, as he was supposed to be that second number 2 running back, as they had some concerns, and now he's on the Redskins grabbed him. That's right, Redskins grabbed him, as there were some concerns surrounding him, but it looks like the Redskins don't. He went late second round, 52nd overall in the second round, so he did go in front of Royce Freeman, but there was a bunch of guys who went in front of him. There he is, Darius Geis, number to second round, 59th pick overall. As he had a bunch of guys go in front of him. He was supposed to be that second number 2 running back. So maybe they think that the Redskins aren't, if they're not concerned with what's going on, they can get a steal there at late in that second round. Ronald Jones went 38th overall. You had Kerryon Johnson go 43rd overall to both teams that needed running backs. There, I like that pick by Detroit getting Kerryon Johnson. He's going to be a good player for them in Detroit. I think the Niners probably wanted him at 44, but they traded up actually. Niners traded up to 44 to get Dante Pettis, a speed receiver, and also a really good return man. And the Niners really haven't had a good return guy since. I mean, they had Ginn for a little bit, but that's about it. Tampa Bay, who needed a running back as well. Ronald Jones should have a nice little career there in Tampa Bay. At least it started off his career in the NFL. I know that the Nick Chubb, obviously Browns, those Browns picks are like, oh, you see that area code, or you see that when their phone rings and it's the Browns are on the clock, it's like, oh. I mean, yeah, you're getting picked to go in the NFL, yeah, all right. But still, you're just like, Browns. I had a 1 in 32 chance of going to the Browns. I mean, other players had were definitely more likely. As the Browns had 2 picks early in that second round. They had 33rd overall and the 35th overall as they got a guard from Nevada and the running back Nick Chubb. And that kind of goes hand in hand there. Then obviously Indianapolis, they did a good job. They used their first. I think they got a linebacker, which is actually really helpful. They got a linebacker, Darius Leonard, out of South Carolina State, out of the MEAC. Always a fun Mid-Eastern Athletic Conference. And then they got the guard Braden Smith out of Auburn to help solidify. So they got 2 guards. They obviously got the number 1 offensive lineman in Quentin Nelson out of Notre Dame, and then getting another guy. As this was a big draft for O-linemen. The big uglies were going early and often in this draft, as we had a bunch of guys from the Big Ten and the SEC. I mean, I kind of like to lump Notre Dame into the Big Ten because I mean they play up in northern Indiana. That's kind of where they are. Obviously, if you want to think about non-conference, I mean we're going to go through which schools had the most picks. Obviously, Alabama leading the pack as usual. They had 12 picks, but I wanted to talk about just Notre Dame. They had a good little showing there. In the beginning, they had 4 guys go, but 2 guys in that first 10 picks had both their linemen, McClitchy to the Niners, and then obviously Quentin Nelson. But I'm trying to see, they had Independent had 5 picks. I mean, that's basically 4 from Notre Dame. I think probably maybe did Army have any of the military schools have one? I'm trying to find which would have been that last pick from. The last pick from that from a independent school would have been cool to notice, which I can look through and see where it happened. But as I do that, I'll just keep on going here. I'm not going to scroll through all this stuff, but I can find out which school was independent. It's probably a military school. Either it was Army, Navy. I think it was Navy, actually. Navy had a guy drafted, which is pretty cool. 4 guys from Notre Dame, 2 of them in the top 10. Gotta like that if you're a Notre Dame fan, knowing that your guys are going to be playing in the National Football League. Going to be good careers for especially those 2 guys up at the front, as they're going to be able to be protecting some precious cargo. Obviously, you got Andrew Luck there in Indianapolis looking for some protection, and then Jimmy G starting his first full season as a 49er is going to have a big right guard, a right tackle now, Mike McClinchy, who could be a guy that eventually takes over at left tackle when Joe Staley's all finished with his career, which should be in the next few years here, as he's getting up there. But as far as the summary here we go, I kind of went over those big conferences and how many picks they had. Alabama led the way with 12 selections. LSU, NC State, and Ohio State all had 7. NC State, look at that. Not really what you think is a big football, big feeder for the NFL, but they obviously had Nick Chubb. They had another guy, I think, go in the 3rd round to the Niners, or 4th round to the Niners, to had an offensive tackle from NC State. You know, like that. If you are a NC State fan, just like continue cheering. I mean, that's the cool thing about college football. Even when it's pretty regional. There's obviously there's tons of colleges out there. But if you're not an NFL fan, but you're trying to get into the NFL a little bit more, maybe, Contervia Street from NC State. was drafted by the 49ers. So he's the guy who actually did. I think he hurt himself while working out for a team, but the Niners decided to pick him anyways. The fourth round pick, 128th overall, the end from NC State, played on the other side of Nick Chubb. So those guys were pretty nasty all season. But yeah, that was one of the other guys I noticed that went from NC State. They had 7 guys go, which is pretty cool. I mean, those are all juniors and seniors pretty much that you think are deemed well enough for the NFL. Florida, UCLA, Virginia Tech, Washington, and Wisconsin all had 5 go from there. I know we had was Vita Vea from Washington. I feel like he went to the Redskins. I know in that first round. He wasn't from Oregon, was he? Oh yeah, Vita Vea from Washington. He was one of the picks. Dante Pettis obviously went in that second round to the Niners. He's from Washington. A couple guys from Wisconsin, and we had the Pac-12 actually showed out pretty well. I mean, they had this the ACC and the SEC are going to always kind of dominate, especially because it's the most. They get their players probably most ready for the NFL. Pac-12 had 30 guys. I mean, that's pretty respectable. Actually, Big Ten had 3 more than them. They had 33 guys. That's Ohio State right there. Ohio State did have 7 of them. LSU, and then 5. Florida, UCLA, Virginia Tech, Washington, Wisconsin. I went over that. Auburn, a bunch of teams had 4. Stanford had 4. Oklahoma State had 4. Ole Miss, USC. So you got all those big schools in there. I mean, one of the surprise ones, like I said, NC State having 7 guys go. We had 2 guys from Wake Forest, 2 guys from Western Michigan, 2 guys from Western Kentucky, so these smaller schools getting some love. San Diego State obviously had Rashad Penny go, along with one of his teammates went later in the rounds. Look at there's only one long snapper was taken. That was in the 7th round. Just a little side note there. Just kind of getting everybody in here. 8 centers. How many quarterbacks? Were all the quarterbacks taken? 13 quarterbacks were taken. Where did my buddy from Toledo go? I got to find him, as there was 3 quarterbacks picked in the 7th round, actually. I know we had somebody go 199, just like Tom Brady did. It was Luke Falk. Yeah, Luke Falk from Washington State went 199, the same to the Tennessee Titans. That's the same position Tom Brady was picked in, just to let you guys know that. The Patriots picked a quarterback from LSU, Danny Etling from LSU. The Patriots picked him in the 7th round. Seattle picked one from Florida International. These are all probably guys that are going to end up in a practice round or just as a guy to throw the football. I thought I saw 3 in the quarter. Oh, yeah. Oh, Logan Woodside. There he is. Logan Woodside lasted all the way to almost the last pick. He was 249 of the Bengals. Logan Woodside from Toledo. He dropped pretty far, actually, there. I thought he was going to go a little bit earlier, but I guess not. Interesting, as the man from Toledo goes late. We had a safety from Yale go, as there's our Ivy League, getting a little shout out for the Ivy League, as I'm just trying to kind of spread around here, trying to get some people involved all over our nation here. Yeah, I said Western Kentucky had a couple guys. I was looking for my boy from Richmond, my quarterback from Richmond. Where did he go? He's supposed to be up early, as we're now in the 4th round. I don't think he was picked that early. Where was my quarterback things? As I'm just kind of going along here through my draft, I just want to give as much as I can. Give pub to everybody. I know we had some quarterbacks go. Yeah, there was 2 in the 6th round, and then none in that 2nd round went. Everybody kind of went in the 1st round, obviously. We had 5 in that 1st round for the first time, I think, ever. 1 in the 3rd, 1 in the 4th, 1 in the 5th. Okay, so we got to find those guys. As we go through, I want to find that guy from Richmond. Where'd he go? I forgot where he went. I had him written down. All my picks here, all my picks to watch, to give you somebody from Richmond. Got to give those small schools some love, like I said. Who was the guy in the 5th round? And we had 4th, 5th, and 6th all had a quarterback. As I'm searching. QB. There's your CB. There we go. There he is. Kyle Lulita went to the Giants. There you are, Giants. Maybe that's the guy you wanted all along. I mean, you had a chance to get Sam Darnold. See, this is why I wanted to look for him, because I knew he had something to talk about. Giants got Kyle Lauletta from Richmond in the fourth round, actually, 108th overall. So he went well ahead of Logan Woodside, who I thought was going to be up there as well. But, I mean, it looks like Logan Woodside is a little bit more of a project, deemed more of a project, but the man from Richmond, as you give the CAA, the Colonial Athletic Association, you got to give them a shout out. CAA goes to for Richmond Spiders football. There we go. Kyle Lauletta to the Giants. All right, we're gonna talk about some more stuff when we get back. We'll probably talk about some more draft stuff as we go along this show. We're talking about maybe a little Shaquem Griffin from USF. Then we'll get into some Scott Frost as we go back to campus, probably at the end of that third segment into the fourth segment. So we'll be right back after these messages.
Check out the show that's built on the MMA, from the UFC to extreme cage fighting. They got the fights covered. Check out the GSMC MMA Podcast. Get the latest news on past or upcoming fights. Join us as we talk to and about some of the biggest names in the MMA, past, present, and future. When it's the fight game, there's just one show to check out. GSMCpodcast.com/MMA-podcast. Don't forget to like them on Facebook and follow them on Twitter. Visit GSMCpodcast.com for more info.
All right, welcome back. GSMC Football Podcast, College Football Edition, segment number 3. All right, just want to talk about a little bit actually here for you guys, for you hardcore college football fans. There are some names you probably did not see. I know there are some top guys who are going to go who went undrafted, who are probably going to get picked and signed with teams that or already have signed. That were undrafted. Actually, we had a guy from Washington State, Hercules Mataafa. Actually, he was a defensive tackle who's just really good. I thought he was going to get drafted. Honestly, this guy, I think at least 6th round, get drafted. Defensive tackle out of Washington State, really plugged up the middle there. Good penetrator, has good quickness off the ball. But he ended up going through the draft undrafted. Was signed with the Vikings out of Washington State. One of the names I saw. Another one is out of Iowa State. Alan Lazard had some crazy catches. I mean, every time I see him, I know when Iowa State beat, I think they beat Oklahoma. They beat somebody. They had a big season last year. He signed with Jacksonville. He can make really good contested catches, good blocker in the run game, where he doesn't really. Well, I mean, when you're running outside, the receivers are a big deal. I mean, you got to be able to have guys who can hold on there and not give up on a play. Another one out of LSU, cornerback Kevin Tolliver, great size, speed. Definitely some versatility from the defensive end when it comes to, or not defensive end position, but on the defensive side of the ball when it comes to the secondary. He signed with the Bears. The number one guy was Holton Hill, cornerback out of Texas. Another cornerback, has some physical tools. Was surprised he didn't make it. Surprised he made it through the draft unpicked. Did sign with the Vikings. I mean, all these guys probably will get chances to play. Another one was another cornerback out of Florida State, Tavares McFadden. Definitely could be a number 3 or 4 slot corner on a team. He signed with the Niners, so he's gonna be. We'll see what he does there in San Francisco throughout the training camp. These are all guys probably who are going to be fighting for a spot on the roster at all, or maybe just the practice squad. All right, like I said, Shaquem Griffin to the Seahawks. I mean, it's a great story, obviously. Great story. The fact he's going to be going to play with his brother. I mean, these guys, they're twins. I mean, they grew up together. You got to be thrilled. I think Shaquille was quoted saying he didn't think he cried on his draft day, but Shaquem did shed some tears on was that Saturday or no Saturday. He was drafted in the 5th round, so Saturday early, and he had to wait through all of Friday, thinking maybe he might go 3rd or 4th round. Did last to the 5th round, but yeah, it was tough for him to bring words to his mouth. He even said, because he was so excited to be able to go to the same team as his brother, Shaquille. So it'll be interesting as they play together. Shaquem, who plays outside linebacker, who played at outside linebacker at UCF, is going to be going to play with his brother Shaquille. That's pretty cool up in Seattle. We'll see how those guys. I mean, that'd be a fun thing to watch as we go through even training camp and mini camps. We're going to have a rookie mini camp coming up here in just a little bit. Jesse will probably talk about that on the regular football show, but I'll be keeping it fresh and keeping it real here on the college football edition. As this is pretty much my last little hurrah when it comes to talking about the NFL, as I still have a little bit of residue on the college side of it when it comes to the draft, but that'll be finishing up here pretty soon. I just wanted to see Shaquem Griffin. He was drafted. He's on the Seahawks now, but I think he was drafted. He was drafted 3rd round from UCF as well. 3rd round, 90th overall last year. So that was by Seattle as well. So he, I don't think he's yet to play in the NFL because he did start his first one solo tackle before leaving the Seahawks game. He did suffer a concussion. He was around the round, but also battled some injuries last year with the Seahawks. So he'll have his brother, as they both are at that. Shaquille plays corner versus Shaquem is a linebacker, so they could be playing together on the same package. So it'll be pretty interesting to see 2 Griffins out there for Seattle, out there in the Pacific Northwest. All right. As we get through this 3rd segment, we're going to go back to campus a little bit here, as I know Scott Frost was there. Actually, both of those guys, it's a cool little segment, is that both those guys had Scott Frost as a coach at UCF. Now Scott Frost is up in Lincoln in Nebraska, coaching the Cornhuskers and going into his first season as he is trying to transform Nebraska into a contender in the Big 12. I mean, make that in the Big 10, actually. They're in the Big 10 West, which is the much weaker division when it comes to the Big 12. I keep saying Big 12. Big 10, the Big 10 East is the toughie. That's with Michigan, Michigan State, Ohio State, and Penn State all in the East. When you have the West is Wisconsin, Northwestern, Nebraska, and I'm trying to think. I think Illinois, Iowa is in there, and so is maybe Indiana. I think are all in that Western division. The Big 10 actually has, I think, 12. The Big 10 has 12 teams, and the Big 12 has 8 teams. I think that's how they didn't change their names. But yeah, no. That's interesting how that all works out there. But as we're going to go, I just want to make sure I have that right. Big 10, the East is Indiana, Maryland, Michigan, Michigan State, Ohio State, and Penn State, and Rutgers. West is Illinois, Iowa, Minnesota, Nebraska, Northwestern, Purdue, and Wisconsin. So yeah, definitely the weaker. You could think the weaker is basically if Scott Frost can get Nebraska back where he wants it to go, where it should be going. I mean, they're perennial football powers. I know it's been a few decades since they were really that relevant in the talk of the town in college football. But and looking at their division, Northwestern was the second best team in that division last year. It was. So they pretty much have to just get above Wisconsin, and they'll have a chance to play in that Big Ten championship game against whoever comes out of the. I wouldn't call it a random crud shoot. But Ohio State definitely a top team on that. You also got Michigan State, Penn State. Michigan's still reeling. They got the coach, they got the guy, they got Jimmy Harbaugh, but still have not been able to really figure it out there in Ann Arbor. I know I would like to probably see, especially if Jalen Hurts does not get the job in Alabama. I know nothing will happen this year, but even maybe for next year for Michigan, if they can get a guy like Jalen Hurts to transfer up to Ann Arbor, that'd be an interesting little story, and it'd be a cool little thing to talk about on here because Jalen would be a good fit there in Michigan. Finally give Jim Harbaugh a guy, experienced passer, a guy who's played in college for a while, but I mean, also got some good running skills, can work the Jim Harbaugh offense. I mean, whether it's throwing from the pocket or moving around, he kind of did the same thing he did with Colin Kaepernick in San Francisco. So if they can get Jalen Hurts up there, we'll see what happens. It's a whole other story that I'll probably get to as we continue on here in the college football show at the GSMC Football Podcast. All right. There's some commits to go over. I know we had Scott Frost, obviously. I'm going to keep going on him. I'm going to say the rest of that story till the next segment as I'm coming to the end here of this first segment. I just wanted to go over some stuff regarding some commits. I know we had some late recruiting stuff as Amari Kite from has now given the Crimson Tide another top 100 ranking commit in the ESPN 300 as the Tide get their 6th top 100 commit, as it was an offensive lineman, Amari Kite from where is he from? As he decided to go, he decided to go to Alabama over Auburn, Georgia, LSU, and Oklahoma, among others. I mean, that's a pretty sought after player there, as he calls Alabama his home for him, and he connected to people well. So I mean, yeah, he is from Alabaster, Alabama. So he's staying in his home state to play for the Crimson Tide, which is always nice. The number 2 receiver has decided he was the 13th ranked prospect. The receiver, Garrett Wilson, has decided to go to he's leaving Texas and headed to Big Ten country. He's going to Ohio State instead of Texas, so he's going into that tougher. I mean, I think that's, especially we've seen the draft now. Receivers they have to really pick and choose where they're going to go. I mean, you only saw. I mean, how many people did we see from the Big 12? I think there was only 12 guys from the Big 12 go in this draft that we just had. I mean, if you're a guy and you need to pick, okay, I'm going to go to when you have a choice, especially to go to Ohio State, I think Texas and Ohio State both have their own pedigrees when it comes to visibility and their lineage. I mean, the highly touted prospects coming out of there, they're on TV a lot. But just going by division and by conference, Big 12 had 20 guys get picked. 20 guys got picked from the Big 12. So, I mean, that's just interesting how it goes. I know we had receivers in this draft. We had 33 receivers go in this draft. So I mean, there's always receivers out there, and if you can maybe get your name a little higher up and play at a school like Ohio State and the Big 10, which as Dean's probably a little more pro style in the than the Big 12, where you have a lot of spread offenses and such. So Wilson will go to the Big 10 out of Texas. He's from Texas, but he goes to play for Coach Urban Meyer, the 6', 170-pound playmaker. They call him the Playmaker Deluxe, as he's going to Ohio State. Definitely a guy probably pretty shifty, as he probably can be pretty good in that return game as well, as most of those shorter receivers are. Makes me think of Dante Pettis, who he's talking about. All right. As we continue on here with our news, I know DeAndre Francois has been. There's definitely been question marks around him as he's had his issues with some drugs situations going on down there in Florida State. The new question is, can he be the leader that they want him to be? I mean, Freddie Willie Taggart has been quoted. I mean, he told DeAndre Francois bluntly, main quote, it is quoted as saying, he says, as soon as I get off the plane, I expect you to be a leader. I mean, they need him to be a leader. They need him to be out of the news, out of the spotlight when it comes to more of the bad legal issues. There was a 2-month sting on him operating on the tip that he was selling drugs. But I mean, they were just a raid in his apartment. We covered that on this show. But I mean, he's definitely had some issues that he needs to get over and decide that he's going to be the guy who they want to talk about, who they want in down there in Tallahassee. I'm trying to think where Florida State plays. They're in Tallahassee. That's where they are, and that there should be an ACC power as they come out. All right. As we continue on here, we had some stuff as Ole Miss. Yeah, Shea Patterson, that's the guy who's going to be transferring to Michigan now. Shea Patterson's going to be that guy in Michigan, as he will be eligible to play this season as Ole Miss decides to has agreed with Michigan to let Patterson play this season. We'll probably talk about that a little more on the other side of the break. But I just want to let you guys know that we have maybe Jim Harbaugh has his first quarterback, and we'll talk about more of him when we come back after these messages.
Check out the show built around the women of MMA. From the UFC to the extreme cage fighting, we got the fights covered.
Listen.
It's the Golden State Media Concepts Women's MMA Podcast. The latest news of upcoming fights, discussions of previous matches. Join us as we talk to and about the biggest names in women's mixed martial arts, past, present, and future. When it's the women's fight game, you know where to listen to. The Golden State Media Concepts Women's MMA Podcast.
All right, final segment here on Monday as we start the week off on this college football edition of the GSMC Football Podcast. I have been your host, Tom Dougherty. It's been great being with you guys today as we continue on in the last 15 minutes here of the show, talking about Shea Patterson. As he actually, there is that rule, like I said, we talked about it before. There is the rule. If you transfer like Jalen Hurts, probably we'll see if that's, this might be a solution to that one, and might kill my Jalen Hurts wishes to go to Michigan. But yeah, I knew Michigan was getting a transfer in Shea Patterson. I thought he might have to sit out 1 year, but they're actually going to waive that and allow him to play this year. As the NCAA did decide to waive, in this case, the normal rule, they required the non-graduated transfers. They have to sit out a year before returning to the field. So Michigan and Ole Miss said in an announcement that they did work together to create a waiver request that they both agreed upon was accurate and recently adapted rules. So, they've adapted the rules a little bit, and the two athletic departments of the schools were able to work together and exploit those changes in the rules in order to get Patterson on the field for the Wolverines. So that's going to be pretty cool as as Jim Harbaugh will finally have a guy. He's going to have a passer. I know Wilton Spate did transfer himself, and it looks like that they're going to have a guy come in this year, and his name is they have a guy who was already redshirt sophomore in Peters. It was down there in Ann Arbor. But yeah, looks like that Patterson's going to be a guy who can play. They have Pep Hamilton. It was the offensive coordinator. It was the passing game coordinator at Michigan. He was with Jim Harbaugh at Stanford when they were getting Andrew Luck going for the NFL. And Pep Hamilton, he was quoted in ESPN saying, if you watch any of his film, it's obvious he can extend plays and he can make all the throws. So they like what they see with Patterson. He was a guy down in the. When you're at Ole Miss, that's the kind of the SEC's little brother. You kind of get forgotten. It's a kind of a state over too far. As you think about Florida, you think about Georgia, you think about Alabama, Auburn. But when you're in Oxford, it's a beautiful campus, beautiful school down there, Ole Miss. But they're more worried about beating Mississippi State. And I don't know when the last time they really competed for being up on top of the up top. Maybe when they had Jim Kelly's son being up there. He was a big quarterback prospect, but looks like that Patterson's going to be having a chance to move over to the Big Ten and play this year, as they have come to an agreement with the NCAA, both schools helping with the compliance and all those rules regarding the transfer stuff that you have to go through when you do move over from different schools. You usually have to wait a year, but they got him to figure it out. They had an attorney, they had different players. They have to write up all this petition, the kind of stuff that allows the NCAA to enact those rules that can have players play within one season or with the very next season without having to sit out a whole season. So it is nice having some help from the from the other school to help you out. All right, and other news, we have cornerback Nick Watkins from Notre Dame is going to be playing his final year somewhere else. He's going to be a graduate transfer. He's announced that he is looking for a new program, and he will be eligible to play this year because he's graduated. Remember, that's the rule. If you're non-graduated, then you have to wait a year. But if you do graduate, so I mean, yeah, if like I said, I think Jalen Hurts, I don't think he's graduated yet from Alabama, so he had to probably wait out a year if he was to transfer after he loses that job to Tua Tagovailoa. So yeah, it looks like that Watkins got his degree from Notre Dame, but then is deciding to go play somewhere else and probably to get on the field a little more. Regarding talked about DeAndre Francois, I mean, he's still looking to be that guy. I mean, they want him to be that leader there at Florida State. I mean, it's going to be tough for him, but they got to figure that out down there at Florida State. I mean, I know they had Blackman come in there last year, but I think Francois is probably the best chance to win when they have the new coach with Willie Taggart coming in with his first year. Speaking of new coaches, we'll go back to talk about Scott Frost. He's just trying to change the culture there. I think he's definitely a rah-rah guy. He got a UCF team to go 13-0 on a season, even when they knew he was leaving. When they played hard, won a bowl game for him. He's going to be a guy that's going to get these players behind him. I mean, he's a young coach, obviously. He's trying to. I mean, knowing it's a long journey from spring all the way throughout the season. But when you're talking about Nebraska, you got to be able to get up there. But being in the weaker Western Division of the Big Ten, I mean, basically it's you versus Wisconsin, or it should be. I know Northwestern has had some good years, but it should be you versus Wisconsin as we go out throughout the rest of this spring and getting into the season. But they're definitely trying to figure out ways to become more interwoven, become a better team, and get that culture together as Nebraska looks to get back on the top of that Big Ten. This is a good chance for them, obviously, when they got a big coach like this. Michigan's a bit down. Michigan State's way wary. Obviously, Ohio State's usually where they are, but this is going to be the first year with the new quarterback there for Urban Meyer as JT Barrett is gone. Speaking of JT Barrett, where did he go? I never saw his name on a list. Where did he get drafted? He is working out for the Saints. I don't think he got drafted. He got worked out for the Saints and was undrafted and picked and signed by the Saints in the quickly after the draft was over. So yeah, he wasn't drafted. I didn't think he was going to get picked, but he did not end up getting drafted over the weekend. He got signed as a undrafted free agent by New Orleans. So you got to look at that for what it's worth. But yeah, speaking of, that's the Big Ten for you. You have a new chance. You have a new chance for a team like Nebraska to get going. I mean, they're trying to get that recognition up there. Obviously, they're the Cornhuskers. It is a storied franchise out there in Lincoln. Got a lot of people come to those games, but when you're not on ESPN regularly, sometimes you can get put forgotten and swept under the rug. I mean, they got to beat Wisconsin. They got to beat all those teams in their division. I mean, we could look at their schedule for this year. If they play anybody who's going to be being a toughie for them, we'll see what their schedule is this year. I know Scott Frost likes to play somebody side. So they have their big road games are at Wisconsin, at Michigan, at Iowa. So everybody else, they play Nebraska and at Ohio State. So it's going to be a tough one for them this year. And then we got to play. I mean, they have two pretty much cupcakes to start off the season. Start off at home. They stay at home actually for the first 3 weeks of the season. They play Akron at home, Troy at home. Those should be wins. Nebraska. Then they play Purdue. That'll probably be their first little test at home. Then they have to go to Northwestern. That'll be a little bit of a test, and they have to go to Ohio State. So they play Michigan State at home. They play Colorado at home in a Pac-12 matchup, Pac-12 Big Ten matchup, and then they play Michigan. If they go to Michigan, go to Wisconsin. So it'll be a little tough test for Scott Frost in his first season, actually, as I look at the schedule here. I mean, you got to go to Ohio State, you got to go to the Big House in Michigan, and you got to go to Wisconsin. So, I mean, that's pretty much, and you got to go to Evanston and play Northwestern, and you also have to go to Iowa. So, when you have the more of the easier home games, you're going to get some tough roadies. I mean, you play Michigan State at home, which is nice, but you're going to play Minnesota, Illinois, and Purdue all at home, and then those 2 cupcake games at the top of the schedule. That means you're pretty much going to play all the toughies on the road. And if you are going to end up being the top team at the end of the year, you got to be able to win those road games. So Scott Frost is going to have it cut out for him. They're going to have a tough swing and play. They have back-to-back road games twice: Northwestern, Ohio State, and then Michigan, Wisconsin, with a couple home games in between. But those gonna be a tough sledding probably there for Scott Frost throughout his first year as the Nebraska quarterback. All right, as we come to the end of this GSMC Football Podcast here, I'm gonna go over a couple more things. We do have some more news to talk about here, and then we have a couple more transfers. The Montana's quarterback is transferring. Gresh Jensen is going to be transferring. He's looking for a new. It hasn't been announced where he's going to be transferring, but Montana's quarterback transferring. Not gigantic news. I know we're having some off the field kind of stuff going on here, but I know there's a report saying that Florida. If you're all you Gator fans out there, I know that you're worried about your new staff with Dan Mullen as your head coach, and want to give some Florida news. Obviously, Florida hasn't been ranked in the top 50 in offense in either scoring or yards since 2010, and that was when Urban Meyer was your coach. So, if you hope Dan Mullen can get your stuff figured out better for you, that'd be good for you guys to get going as they, as you guys are trying to fight to get back in that SEC. That's the thing. That Florida has been kind of forgotten as they were the team to beat in the SEC for a long time. Now Alabama definitely taking that over for them. So you got to figure that out. It has been said that their offense is getting on the right track with this new staff in place as they figure out who their quarterback's going to be. I know Felipe Franks was their guy last year. Yeah, he looks like he did have more success on the ground than running the ball versus throwing it through the air. So during that spring game, so you can get that figured out, get some more balance in that passing game and in the running game, and that offense altogether. All right. So we went over the draft a lot more, talked about the draft as we went through the last couple rounds, definitely went through which conference fared in the draft, then different coaches, some different news as we're getting some news out of Lincoln with Scott Frost and his tactics regarding how he's going to get his team going for this season. So, and then on Wednesday we'll get going probably more on some spring football stuff and some transfer news that are coming out as we have some stuff coming out every day here at the GSMC Football Podcast. We're going to bring it to you as fast and as efficiently as we can here. So be sure to tune in on Wednesday for another college football edition. Until then, enjoy watching some playoff basketball, hockey, baseball, whatever you like. Spring football, go watch some highlights of the draft, and we'll see you on Wednesday. See ya.
You've been listening to the Golden State Media Concepts Football Podcast, part of the Golden State Media Concepts Podcast Network. You can find this show and others like it at www.gsmcpodcast.com. Download our podcast on iTunes, Stitcher, SoundCloud, and Google Play. Just type in GSMC to find all the shows from the Golden State Media Concepts Podcast Network, from movies to music, from sports to entertainment, and even weird news. You can also follow us on Twitter and on Facebook. Thank you, and we hope you have enjoyed today's program.